I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. You all asked, and I did watch the Hulu docuseries. It was a two-part series called The Nightmare Upstairs. And this is a true story. They are including recordings that children did during this whole ordeal, and it was a lot. And so there are content warnings for allegations of child SA, and then also allegations of parental alienation. I want to talk about the difference between parent rejection and parental alienation, and also best practices when doing any type of reunification therapy. There were some things that I think were not portrayed, and based on my understanding of what happened in this case, there were definitely some things that were, I think, missed by the court system. And just because somebody has unfounded allegations, and in this case, there were actually CPS or DHS had founded allegations against the dad, it wasn't clear to me what steps he took. So was he court mandated to get a psychological evaluation? Was he required to participate in therapy? Was he required to, I don't know, to me, it wasn't clear what requirements happened after that. It sounds like the state chose not to press legal charges, and that sometimes that happens. So that's not at all uncommon that in family court, or the child services investigation has a finding, but then the district attorney or whoever would press charges decides not to press charges. They also mentioned in the docuseries that the father took a polygraph, and I would love to know what the questions were. So if the question was, did you blah, blah, blah inappropriately? Because in his mind, what if he genuinely believes what he did wasn't inappropriate? And so that's where I just wanted to know, with him passing the polygraph, I just wanted to know what specific questions were, because based on the doctor's testimony at the end. So this has spoilers. Okay. So if you didn't watch the series and you don't want spoilers, please, the series, it's an emotional roller coaster. Like, I felt my chest getting tight by the end, because I don't think any adult handled the situation in a way that I would recommend. That's me being kind. I thought now I thought the stepfather and the stepmother, the ex-stepmother, they did what they could, but the mother and father in this situation, no, I think they both did what they thought was right with what they had. If I was a therapist, I would have made some different suggestions, some different recommendations. And so, thank you. You mentioned loving my shirt. So we call ourselves psych nerds here. And we like to psych out and nerd out about psychology. And some of the psychology behind this is attachment, what happens when a child reports harm, and how systems involved may make the situation worse. And I definitely have some thoughts. So with this entire case, so I and Brenly, they their parents decided to get a divorce. And when she was around 7 years old, she came to her mother with some concerning information. I'm not going to go into the details, but the father, pretty much based on the pediatrician's testimony, it was my understanding that the father confirmed what the child had alleged, but thought it was, but I was putting on diaper rash cream. But I would not personally apply um, cream, but I work with children that have been harmed, so I probably have more of like a I'm very careful with children. Like, I just have more of that. I'll never forget one of my good friends, we were out to lunch and I took her daughter to the bathroom and I think she stayed 'cause I think she brought 2 children. So I took and I think her daughter was maybe like 6 or 7 at the time, and the child was taking a long time, and so I just peeked in. I was like, "Hey, are you okay?" She was like, "I need some toilet tissue." So I went in, I got her some toilet tissue. I don't wipe other people's butts. I don't I don't do it. Like now if it's a baby, if it's a toddler, that is one thing. Once you can do it and like so I don't and hey, your mom's right here. Like if you need some help with that, I'll go get your mom and I'll watch the other child. Like I have very clear boundaries with that. Um Even with my own child, so he's not great at washing his hair and he's 8 years old. So if I go in to wash his hair, I have him put on swim trunks. Like it's like, all right, mommy's gonna wash your hair. Here are your swim trunks. Going ahead and put and I wash his hair. I leave the bathroom. I give him privacy. We do warn him before his yearly physical. So the doctor does have to check. The doctor does have to do certain, and mom and dad are sitting right there, you know. But I have very clear boundaries around those things. Those things were not there. And it's my understanding that CPS said that yes, there was lewdness. So this is Utah. This comes out of the state of Utah. And so they ruled lewdness and they also ruled for emotional harm. And I don't know what the father had to do to correct any of that because his mother, the grandmother, the paternal grandmother, she does interviews and it is pretty clear that she supports her son 100%, right? Like she is completely supportive of him and in a way where I think she blames the mother for all of the allegations, for all of how the children feel about her son, about their father. It really seemed like the paternal grandmothers just supported, but there's a piece here where, yes, this thing that the daughter said happened, he has an explanation for it that mm, okay, but like it it happened. And uh okay. Okay. So once again, if I was the therapist and if we were talking about any type of reunification, the person like I would just want to know, okay, what are the boundaries? How are we going to create safety? Because it didn't seem like the father ever acknowledged that it was inappropriate at all, that any part of that could have been inappropriate. We also have to add in, I'm so sorry, Utah. I'm so sorry to our, good Kathy calls them casserole potato casserole Mormons because the father comes from his family are direct descendants of founders of the LDS church. And so in preparing to talk about this, I wanted to look up patriarchy within the Mormon church because the children's mother alleged that he was very controlling of her. He was very controlling of what she wore, what she could do when she went out, that he was very, very controlling. And his second wife also made allegations of him being extremely controlling and all of these things. And I don't know if there's any acknowledgement of that. And I do believe the second wife acknowledged that he called the son names. So if the son cried or if the son that he called him derogatory names, and I'm not going to repeat the words here, but it's words that like parents should not say to children. And when you call boys certain things for crying, you kind of like you can have this that's that toxic masculinity where it's like you don't show emotion, be a man. He's 11. He's not a man. And I want men to be able to cry too. I want men to be able to wear pink. Like there were all of these things, and sometimes that can no sometimes there's certain faith traditions where it tends to be a little bit more common, because I even think of the Duggar family, and I want to say it was, so, and I think they all, the whole bunch of J's. So I want to say it was Josh was the one that was convicted, and then Joseph is the one that's currently awaiting charges in Florida. And the wives support them 100%. And the wives, I don't know that the wives would protect the children. So the mother in the case that we're talking about, so Ty and Bryn's mother, she was not raised LDS. They bring up her traumatic childhood, and it sounds like he was on this save a woman mission, but I think he wanted to marry somebody that was like broken, because then he could swoop in and rescue. But then, like, based on what they alleged. Okay. So I'm not saying this, based on what was said in the documentary, that he would then try to control them. And mm, because his second wife had two daughters, and the first wife came from a difficult background, and he's this upstanding Mormon guy, married her in 2 months, and it was so much. So the initial custody agreement was probably some type of shared custody, but after the allegation of harm against Brinley, then visits became supervised. So his visits were supervised. He recorded them with a GoPro. And then later, the son so Ty made allegations as well. And I don't know. So I don't know what happened with social services and his allegations. Um, Once again, this case is very triggering. If you decide, they go into details in the episodes that I am not going to go into here. I am flagging questions. Thank you, Lizzie. I see your second question. Let me go back to the first one. So your first question was, should the kids have had court appointed counselors and a different counselor for each child, also one with no relationship to either parent? So there was a guardian ad litem. So there is an episode, let me find their name. So there are, it's a podcast called, I think it's Murders She Watched. Yes, I'm almost positive that's the name of the podcast. And they dug deeper into that there was a guardian ad litem. So that is a guardian appointed just for the children. They don't separate one for each child. They just normally just have one guardian ad litem. Guardian ad litems sometimes make less money than a typical lawyer. I don't know how that works in every state. I know in Virginia, sometimes the court appointed rate for a guardian ad litem, sometimes it's less than like what they would get if they were assigned a different case. I've worked with some phenomenal guardian ad litems, and I've wanted to pull my hair out for some others. And but they are the ones that are supposed to speak and kind of represent the best interest of the children. All right. Why would dad need to give up parental rights? Why couldn't he have dropped the forced visits and taken the back seat? I didn't understand that bit. So I think after all of the, okay, so anybody that's new to this case, what ended up happening is these children, they had a therapist that they really liked. The therapist was supportive of the children's voice and the children being able to choose whether or not they went to visits. They were forced to do reunification therapy. And I think that therapist had an issue with what this other therapist was saying and doing. And so the new reunification therapist recommended a 90-day program where the children and father have no contact with the outside world for 90 days to work on their relationship. My issue with an intensive reunification plan like that is it did not address the allegations of harm. So, because what they alleged was parental alienation. And what parental alienation is when one parent is manipulating the children to ruin their perception and mind about the other parent. I don't know that the mother was like, so uh, but so when Brinley first came and made the allegation, she said what happened. And that clearly happened, and I think mom then, because she called her lawyer. The first person mom called was her lawyer, and the lawyer recommended that she call social services. Sometimes in custody disputes, there can be false allegations of harm. And so there can be people that do lie or get the children to lie, and it's completely made up, has no basis in fact. What Brinley reported was based in something that did happen. Dad admitted, yes, I applied the desitin cream to her, and so because what happened was the mom noticed that her daughter was putting lotion in space. It was like, why are you doing that? And then there were things that happened. I'm trying to make this as like calm and like as this is as it can be. So at 7 years old, and he had a wife, and it's my understanding, because there was a police investigation, like the police, he was interviewed by a detective, and what he told, and she participated in the docuseries. She couldn't talk about the case, but she participated. Um, but you hear parts of their interview, and he blames, she doesn't wash, she doesn't bathe over at mom's house. He has all of these things, and this detective interviews his wife as well, and his wife initially says, I have no concerns about him, I leave him alone with my daughters. And then she comes back in a follow-up interview and says, I was coached. He wanted me to say that I've completely trusted him. He wanted me to say that anytime he applied the cream, I was always there, but that was not true. And so to avoid going to the 90-day intensive cut, and to avoid going to that reunification program, the children barricaded themselves in their room. Like they cut a hole, because I think there was like a bathroom, but normally they would have to. I don't like. I was wondering like where with the bathroom, but for some reason they had to cut a hole in the wall to get to the bathroom. But they completely barricaded themselves. And they brought ramen, they brought all this different food things, and they started going live on TikTok. Most of the like all the like they started going live and documenting their experience and what they were being forced to do. So the police and the order and the court order, they gave the police permission to use some force to take the children to this camp. And there are videos of children being carried by police officers, kicking and screaming, to have to attend a visit with the parent that they do not want to see. That can cause harm. Like that is not, I as a therapist, I would not recommend that. That is no. So I have a history of doing supervised visitation. So therapeutic supervised visitation. It would be somebody involved with social services, and they would be working towards, are they able to get custody of their child back? There was some type of founded harm in the past. Social services worked with what they were required to do, and I would sit in with them, their child, and within in a therapeutic visit, I would give them feedback before the visit. I would be there during the visit, and I would give them feedback after the visit. So that would be a therapeutic supervised visit. He likely needed, or this family likely needed therapeutic supervised visits, and not just him in there with them. Sometimes visits went fine. Sometimes they went way, way, way to the left, because there is a recorded visit of when Ty, the son, had to be between the age of maybe he was like 12 or 13 years old or so. I can't tell his exact age, but he is a child, and he confronts his dad about what he alleges his dad did to him. And the dad says, "Did you pray about that?" And like the dad just like the religious trauma of that. Like that was just And Ty is like, yeah, I pray, because it was like the father was saying, you saying that is going against God. Like you saying that to me right now is going against God. And it was I and then so 'cause people looked at that and they thought what the child was doing was disrespectful, and what I personally saw was a child trying to find his voice, trying to say why he didn't want to come to visits, why he didn't feel safe with his dad, and the dad just blames the mom, like, she's putting stuff in their head. And they also blamed his therapist. So, I believe he's the founder of Bikers Against Child. And his name was JP Lilly. And he was their therapist. He was, based on the research I did, I found that he was a licensed clinical social worker. I believe he was also registered as a play therapist. He was also a registered play therapist. And now I think he gets really, really friendly. So like, cause I think he like goes to people's homes. Like he really wants the kids to know that he's there for them and almost like he will protect them in a way, but it's in a really big way. And this might have been what these kids needed. I don't know. Um, uh, at the end of the docuseries, Ty talks about that with his current therapist, he's working on the fact that he's not as broken as he thought. And so like it sounds like he's trying to heal, he's trying to work through this, he's trying to move past it. Somebody mentioned the father relinquishing his parental rights at the end of all of this. I think it was just the money, so like the finances, and he was and all the evidence, because he did that after he lost the big court hearing where this was like his last attempt. The kids are also almost 18 years old. So I think at the time of that hearing, Ty was 17, and I couldn't tell the age difference between Ty and Brinley, but I'm thinking she's maybe 15, 14. Like there's an age gap. I don't know how big it is. Um but she's going to be 18. These children did not want to ever see him again, ever again. And so, by relinquishing parental rights, I wonder if that also waived any child support. I'm just thinking, like, I don't, so nobody talked about why he would have done it. And he did do at the end of the video, I'm sorry, at the end of the show, you have a statement from the father. He did it looks like he's reading the statement on a teleprompter. He reads his statement to his children. Did I take any notes on that? Let me look at my notes to see if I had any thoughts about his statement. Ooh. Uh yeah, so I didn't even write anything down about it. So it was, to me it kind of gave, I'm sorry you feel that way, which I don't know that there's a perfect thing that he could have said, but it was his message to his children if they ever watched it. Y'all let me know y'all's thoughts about it. I didn't write anything down about it. His mother was very proud of him and felt like she related it back to Solomon in the Bible. So there's a Bible story where two women are fighting over a baby, and one of them is the birth mother. The other woman is a grieving, her baby died, and she's taken this baby and trying to say it's hers. And so in the Bible, Solomon offers to split the baby in two. Like, hey, both of y'all can have half a baby. And the mother says no, she can have the baby. And the grieving person was like, hey, I want something. And so she was like, so the mother, to me, in comparing him to Solomon and all of this, she's kind of trying to make it sound like by relinquishing his rights, he was proving that he's a safer person. I don't know. Like, I don't, so I am talking about my thoughts and perceptions on what they said. I do not know what she was really thinking, but it was like he rose above it all and he made the righteous choice to relinquish rights. Like it it was what it was. I do think it to me, it could possibly open a chance that if his children were ever going to have any type of relationship with him in the future, which I don't think they will, this all was just really, really bad. Like this whole situation for I think this visitation back and forth went on between like 6 to 7 years. This was years of this back and forth, and it was contentious. Um, it was a lot. So now we do need to just talk briefly about the mother. Because while the children are barricaded in the room, she also gets on TikTok to talk about the experience. She likely gains a following very, very quickly. So then she starts, I think, thinking of ways she can pay for her uh, attorney's fees, her bills. And so then she starts monetizing the TikTok. So she starts like, hey, if you want to buy this shirt, and so she kind of turns into uh, a momfluencer almost, but like her children are barricaded in a room. So like it was a choice. I don't know if she regrets that choice. If I was a therapist, I would not have recommended that. She did not, but I think she was trying to, because some people did not believe that the kids were really locked and barricaded in their room. Because imagine scrolling on TikTok. This never came across my TikTok, but like imagine scrolling TikTok and two kids, two minors, are like locked in a room saying that they're like they have a history of this harm by their dad, and they're being the court is forcing contact and they don't want it. Like a lot of people would be like, is this real? Like a lot of people would doubt that. And but it was true. So the mom went on, I think initially to prove, but I think then like the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives kind of so when I watched the Murder She Watched podcast, they mentioned that you could just fit her into the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Like her look and everything is just gives off like influencer. I don't know if that's what she was trying to do. She was going to be on TV, okay? Because best believe if I'm gonna be on TV, I'm gonna go get my hair done. I'm gonna go get my hair, my makeup professionally done. Okay, so like I'm gonna do all the things too, but it just they recorded aspects of this and it seemed like there was a film crew. Okay, so I'm telling y'all because I think the idea for the documentary came sometime during the 54 days the children were locked in the upstairs. 54 days. They had no contact outside of TikTok. And I think they could like put their fingers under the door. Um uh for 54 days they had no contact with with the outside world and outside of TikTok. And so that was that was a lot. That was a lot. But I think that was the only thing that saved them from having to go to that 90-day reunification camp with the father, that they have serious allegations and he hasn't admitted that he's done anything wrong. So with reunification therapy, when there is a confirmed history of child harm, um, uh, uh, reunification therapists can harm children who legitimately fear a parent. Parents who have acted harmfully in the past need remediation before reunification can even be considered. And so it could have been left out of the docuseries. I did not know what remediation the father did for the allegations of emotional harm and also the lewdness. Like that was what social services found. And there can be questionable therapies that do not build on healthy attachments between children and a harmful parent. So it's actually harmful for a child that is not safe to be securely attached to that parent. Like that is problematic. That can be really, really harmful. Like it can be very healthy for a child that has been harmed to not want to engage with somebody that's been harmful with them in the past. The father's second wife left him. And once again, the dad's family blames these allegations, these false allegations. Um, but I think she likely had some concerns because I think they were married for 3.5 years, and they shared the video because there was I don't know, there was camera footage of her packing up and him confronting her because she did not tell him that she was leaving, and even in trying to leave, she wouldn't confirm, "Are we getting a divorce?" Because I wonder if she was concerned about her safety and him, so I don't know what she was concerned about. As a person that covers true crime, I can understand that, but, like, so to me, he didn't acknowledge some of his stuff and the things that he could have worked on. Because if he came into my therapy office and was like, "It's all this person, it's all that person, it's all her fault," I'd be like, "Wait a minute. I read the report." I would just have some questions. And so I would probably get fired. He would not have liked me. I don't know. I probably would have got fired. And as a child therapist, so I try to be very careful. Um, uh, because if there are concerns about certain things, because if there are allegations of harm by one parent to another, I have to report that to social services. I am a mandated reporter. The one thing I will tell you is there's a big difference between child rejection and parental alienation. Child rejection is based on the child's experience, the child's memories, what the child experiences during those visits. Because the family wanted to be like, oh, nothing, the visit was going perfect. And then there were these big escalations at the end. Now, granted, it could have went perfect, but if I met with that child, they might have told me, you know, my dad made this comment about, I don't, so like sometimes I am told things that happened that clearly explain why there was that escalation. That because sometimes the other adults are leaving out information. But because I try to have a good therapeutic relationship with the child, they often say, like, "Nah, my mom actually tries to get me to go to visits. My mom actually wants me. Like, it's court ordered. She can get in trouble with the court. The court's blaming her for me not going, but I get physically sick. Like, and he's not taking accountability. I don't feel safe with him." So that's sometimes the things that as a therapist, and I gave a very general example of what I think could have happened in those sessions that makes parental rejection different from parental alienation. Now, I would have asked the mom to not speak negatively about the dad and to not like reinforce. So, like, you can validate a child's feelings without like, oh yeah, your dad, he did. And so I'm not saying she did these things, but in cases I've seen, sometimes a parent will almost almost come down to the child level and start talking about all of their trauma. And it's like, no, your child needs you to be the adult. And so they need you to listen. They need you to hug them. I'm doing the best like keep talking to your therapist. We're gonna, keep letting people know how you feel and to reinforce that. How much influence do you think Ty had over his sister? So I think Brenly had difficulty standing up for herself. And they at the beginning of the docuseries, they described Ty as protective. And they said that that was like his dad. And I don't know how he's gonna feel about that. So I don't know. I don't know how he'll feel about that. Um uh the dad likely had some positive qualities too. Like no person is all bad or all good. But Ty came off as very protective. Brinley would go to some visits. So she attended more supervised visits than Ty did. Because there was one point when he actually tried to be emancipated because they were still forced to do supervised visits. And so he was just like, no, like he just wanted to be a legal adult, leave mom and dad. like just, I just want to be able to be in control of my own life. I didn't love when the one reunification therapist said that like children don't need control because children in a situation like that, they need choice. Choice, I think, is different than control. And these were children that were making very serious allegations. And at least 2 of those allegations were founded by social services. And so that's where I would just have questions about what the safest way to proceed forward. Um, uh, yes. And I think sometimes she would try to go, but I'm sure when she went, because even dad would be like, let Ty know how much I love him. And I would have encouraged him to not do that, to just focus on the visit with her. Cause now she's carrying the emotional burden of having, cause Ty doesn't want to hear that. Ty doesn't want to hear that you love him. So now you're making her the messenger, and I wouldn't have put her in that position. So that's where I think therapeutic supervised visits might have been a better option. But once again, also the parent that's had serious allegations doing some type of remediation. And I don't know if he did. Okay. I also heard that he was a former football player, and that did not come up at all. I think defensive end, I think. Buffalo Bills. That was according to the podcast, Murder She Wrote podcast. I did not look that up myself. I heard that in watching that podcast. Um, all right. Yes. So in Virginia at 12, kids get more of a voice. They can't always choose. So if there's court ordered visitation, because sometimes the parent that their visits are being refused, sometimes they will blame and say, like, they'll blame the other parent, because even in this case, the mother was being asked when taught what are the consequences when he doesn't go. And I have worked on some cases where we just talked about, because sometimes I would have a client saying, I don't want to go to visits because I want to play my video games. And so I'd be like, wait a minute. But like, so sometimes we would have to put, and that was the only reason why they didn't want to go, was because of video games or something. And so it's like, so maybe if you don't go to visits, you don't get to play video games. Like, that's just like a natural thing. Because then visits are fine. They go to visits, no major issues. It's normal for kids to be upset before and after visits with a child, with a family member, with a parent that they don't feel as comfortable with. So it's really common that children feel really safe with one parent, and they have one parent that they go to. You are blessed if you have two parents that you can easily go to, that you feel really comfortable with about all things emotions and everything. Um, uh, but um, so if I'm working with a child, and let's say they share custody, 1 week on, one week off, and transitions are really difficult. Sometimes we look at ways to make transitions easier and smoother. I've worked with some people where they transition in the middle of the week instead of on the weekend, because they were having major meltdowns because both parents are there. Like, both parents are at the weekend event, or they're being picked up from the house they want to stay at or something. And so we've sometimes talked about ways to make transitions smoother. When I was doing, sometimes I did supervised visits, therapeutic. So sometimes I did therapeutic visits. Sometimes I did supervised visits where I just sat in on the visit but didn't provide any feedback. But I would speak up if something was inappropriate, because I'm there to protect this emotional safety of my client. Um, and then also sometimes me being the transition as a therapist, being like, I would transport the child to visits, and I would transport them often to their foster family. That's normally, these were normally DSS involved cases when I was doing that type of work. Sometimes if the visit was really tough, I would take the kid to the park first to burn off some energy. Or I would take them just swing, or kick a ball back and forth, or we could process the visit after, so that when they got back to the foster home, I would also give the foster family a heads up on just kind of if it was difficult, or just encouraging them to just, hey, we might see a little bit more defiance, but like there might just be a little bit more pushback today. Um, Food was a big thing, where sometimes I would have to encourage the birth family to, like, hey, don't let a 4-year-old eat 8 cheeseburgers or something. I'm being dramatic, but, like, sometimes there was just this gorging, and there was a history of neglect, and, and it could get to the point where it was not it where things were concerning, and so, um, that's what we did. Um, so my thoughts on all of this, this was a lot. So I don't think that the mother completely brainwashed the children or anything. Um, I think there were some things that um, as a therapist, I just would have recommended some things to be different. So to make sure to not make negative comments about both parents, not make negative comments about the other parent, not talk about the like that we talk about the court stuff in session. We talk about all those things because I mentioned the film crew because on the day of the final judgment, they had a film crew, so that's where in back of my mind, I don't know this to be true. I wonder if there was already the idea that we're going to turn this into a documentary or into a docuseries. We're going to document this because that's a very private moment. And that's why this I didn't y'all asked me to watch this. I don't know that I would have chose to watch this just for my own entertainment because it was a painful watch because I felt like a voyeur. Like I felt like I shouldn't be watching this, like, when the children are breaking down, being told, like, what the judge that, "Okay, yes, you don't have to do reunification, but you do have to continue to do visits." And just to see the kids raw and there's a film crew, like, walking behind the kid, and so that just felt uncomfortable for me personally. Very, very uncomfortable for me personally. Um, Casa has to make sure because sometimes Casas can wanna sweep in and save people, and you can't save people. And, so Casa can be an additional community voice. Casa can be sometimes they so Casa workers often do a better, more thorough job than the guardian ad litem. So sometimes the Casa worker communicating any concerns, but you wanna be careful that there aren't areas of bias. And what I mean by areas of bias is, because 'cause I've personally seen some people get into work. So I don't do uh, parental capacity assessments because I just naturally lean toward protecting children. And I would never want to say that yes, a parent has the capacity to parent, and then God forbid something bad happen, and it's like, so I now there are people that do them. There is a method, there's a methodology behind it. No assessment can be 100%. No assessment can predict the future. But I do general psychological evaluations. I don't do them anymore for people that are court involved. I used to do them. I made more money with them, but it wasn't worth me being subpoenaed to court and having to testify, sit in court all day. Like it just wasn't worth it. And so I hope I answered that question. That was a very, very long answer. So for CASA, um, just being aware of any potential bias. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So what is a CASA? So that is a community. Let me look up what the word custody issues. So let me see. CASA, what does it stand for? Hopefully people court appointed special advocate. So a CASA is a court appointed special advocate, and that is a person that is and they volunteer, so they are not getting paid. The guardian ad litem is a guardian, like is can act on the child's behalf, can request records. They make a formal recommendation. CASA workers are community volunteers that meet with the children, meet with the parents, and they're just an additional support. I wanted to share because I saw these two things. I will post them to the community tab tomorrow. So I will post these tomorrow to the community tab. But it says children don't need us to stop the storm, they need us to sit with them through it. And that was something that I wanted because I think like everybody was just trying to like, now if something is unsafe, we have to stop things that are unsafe. But uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable things, so when they're starting to feel overwhelmed, scared, lonely, sad, to be there with them in that. And that takes emotionally mature adults, where the adult has to be stronger, bigger, and that helps build safe attachment. So, because I so many times I see people trying to protect their child from ever experiencing any type of harm. So I'm a licensed psychologist, and I cannot protect my child from every single type of harm. Now, what I can do is I can teach my child the things that people that are unsafe can do. Because even today, my child, because he got some candy from the principal today, and he was telling me, he's like, the principal's a safe person. So that means I can accept candy from them. And I was like, yes, sure enough. I was like, and also unsafe people can also do, sorry, safe people can sometimes do unsafe things. And so you still tell mommy, daddy, teacher, counselor, like you still tell the world, even if somebody that you thought was safe did something that was unsafe, because sometimes kids get into this good guy, bad guy thing. And that was true. Like kids want to put people into categories. Either you're good or you're bad. And we live life in the gray. Things aren't always that black and white. And so I also wanted to share this one because I thought it was important. All right. Let me make myself small. Safety is much more than the absence of threat. Safety is the presence of connection. And as I watched this, I so wanted those children to have safe connection. And I think JP Lilly gave that to them. The mother, I can't imagine. So custody disputes are expensive. The mother talked about being in over $300,000 of debt due to lawyers' fees. And I don't think that's an exaggeration, because it was over like 6 to 7 years of back and forth custody battle. And those lawyers, every email you send, every phone call they make, every person they give a deposition for, if they hire any experts, all of those things are just so much. And so thank you for checking out my shorts. I appreciate it. I'm also going to make a clarification about the about Dominic Russo a little bit later, but because there's a whole bunch of things out here on these interwebs, and if I was family, I would just stay out the comments. But like, oh, please protect your mental health. Okay, protect your mental health, and if you have a channel, moderate your comments heavily. You might even just filter out certain words. And so there have been some things stated, and so I want to clarify some things. But let me see. All right. Yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. All right. Joining late, but are there tips to finding a child therapist for those of us looking for a good fit for our child, especially in regards to visitation? 14-year-old struggles. And that's where finding a therapist that specializes in working with, um, if it's, so I sometimes call it high conflict, but it might not. You might find your words for it. Because sometimes it's giving the 14-year-old a safe space to talk, because some things are, they don't quite cross the line of being something to report to the court. I've worked with a lot of situations where a parent said things that was not great. They maybe didn't have rules or boundaries, but it didn't reach a level of neglect. It didn't reach a level of making some type of report. And so we tried to find ways to help the child navigate both environments. And sometimes having a safe space to talk and explore that can be helpful. But the questions I would ask the therapist is, what's your approach with working with high conflict issues? Most therapists are going to tell you they don't do court. Because as a therapist, I want to stay out of court if I can. Sometimes it is not possible, and I do charge because it's in my documents. If you subpoena me, because I have to cancel my entire morning, possibly my entire day. And me being in court can break my relationship with my client, because so at 14 in Virginia, a child at 14 has additional confidentiality, not quite, but like they have, I don't tell the parent everything they say. I'm in court, And if I'm mandated to say all the things, that can sometimes break some of that with the client. And so there's a way to try to navigate it without things getting too messy. And so good. So it's not a court situation. Perfect. It's just a safe space. So sometimes working with somebody that specializes in working with because I feel like people that know about working with trauma also work well with attachment. If they do EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, or if they specialize in adjustment issues, because it can be difficult to go back and forth. As a child, I'm grateful. So my parents divorced shortly after I was born. I always I would do like visits with my dad. My dad never fought for more custody than like I wanted, which was good for me personally. That doesn't always happen, and so prioritizing the needs of the child and giving the child a safe space to talk can be helpful. And so, yes, yes, so I love it when people say that EMDR has been helpful for them. It's not appropriate for every situation. If people are dealing with dissociation or if they're dealing with certain things, it is not always helpful. But I would also just ask about if they include the other, because you might just be looking for individual therapy. And if the other parent is open to feedback or if they're wanting to work on the relationship, then that might be family therapy, which is something totally different. But if it's just a safe space for your child to open up, um, I've worked with people where they go back and forth, and we've had the same appointment every week where one parent brings them one week and the following week the other parent brings them, and then so I'm able to check in with both parents. And both parents also have my contact information for like, hey, if there's an issue during your visit time, that you can always reach out for support. And so um, I have a therapeutic resources playlist. And on that playlist, I believe I have answering your questions about therapy. Ooh, I think I also have like a child therapy playlist. I think I have a parenting playlist as well. So you might check those out to see if there's anything that would be helpful there. Let me just make sure that I did all of this. Focusing on the best interest of the children is so important. And um, I just that's always my goal, is what's going to help these kids feel safe. Once again, rejection is when a child that has a history with the parent, like, and it's not based on what somebody else has told them. This is based on their experiences with that parent. If there hasn't been some type of because that's what the reconciliation therapy is supposed to be like it's but if that other parent isn't making amends, if they're not admitting what they did, if they're not doing those steps, it's gonna be difficult. And so, in the docuseries, they also talked about how parental alienation can sometimes be used to kind of weaponize forced reunification, because sometimes you can't always prove whether allegations are true or not. And during the custody case, they did have the DSS worker. I was concerned that the DSS worker didn't bring their file, but I think they intentionally didn't bring their file, because whatever you bring to court can be entered into the record. And I think this was probably a very televised, this was a very public thing because of how popular the children became on social media. People were advocating for them in big ways. So I never advocate, so people shouldn't be getting like death threats or anything like that. Like those things should not happen. And so sometimes the true crime community can go a bit too far. So it's like, wait a minute, like that's like don't start. Mm, but people don't like to see children in bad situations. I get it. That's why, as I mentioned, that was very, very hard for me to watch, because like I said, there were parts of it where it felt uncomfortable seeing some of these things I think should have been private. Me personally. I don't believe in monetizing my pain. I personally don't do that. If I'm really struggling, I handle that privately. I might talk to y'all about it after, but I'm not gonna record in the midst of my breakdown. That's my personal thing. Now, breakdowns get views, but like it's not worth it. It's not worth it for me personally. Part of that might also be because I'm a psychologist and if I'm filming my breakdowns, I have other friends that do that and they still have clients and it's fine, but I wouldn't want my clients worrying about my mental health. So that would be handled with me and my therapist. I would not put that out there for the world to see. So switching gears for just a second to because there have been a lot of comments on my video about the docuseries The Crash, where people have been making false allegations against Dominic. So people are calling him like a drug dealer. Like people are really saying really, really big things. And those things, I don't believe they are true at all. Um so Mackenzie, it was her scale. Mackenzie was the one that brought the schmugs. And then people also talked about the fact that she was like, I think she might have been trying to have like an OnlyFans or she was selling pictures for money. She was a minor and that was illegal. And I don't think Dominic had anything to do with encouraging her to do those things. He traded crypto. I think he had other ways that he made money. And so there's a lot of things out there. And so, yes, social media. So I'm old. I'm 43 years old, almost 44. I talk about facing your problems and not Facebooking them. I hope she doesn't follow me. Maybe she does. I have a friend on Facebook and she posts like, because I guess her husband had like an emotional affair with somebody and she had a whole mental breakdown on Facebook and was like, oh wow. But then she got back together with him. And I was just like, oh, okay. But I'm seeing it all. And I'm just like, I'm not your therapist. I know too much, but I did. So sometimes I'll have to like mute people for a period of time. I don't want to completely unfriend them. But I don't need to know all of that information. Um, I and even let's say even if those things were true, the allegations that people have made against like that what happened was still a crime, but also what they're saying isn't true. So I try to clear those things up. Thank you so much for spreading my channel. I am looking forward. I need a break from all the Mackenzie stuff because it's too much. But I am subscribed to Dominic's sister's channel. I think it's Unhinged Sister. I am subscribed over there. Once I have the emotional space for it, I will check it out. And so that's where we go. Um, I so appreciate this community, and it's my goal for us to learn. So we're together. We want to learn, laugh, and grow. Okay, and I think there's a way to talk about true crime without us all having to be traumatized. And that series, oh, like I had to talk about it because I need to get some of the things I saw yesterday off of my chest. Like it was it was a lot. They included videos that I think just, it caught your attention, but it felt like a bunch of trauma that I didn't need to see. The kids experienced it. I hope they continue in therapy. I wanted everybody to get therapy, mom, dad, grandma, kids, like everybody, like Oprah. I just wanted to throw out therapy to everybody because therapy, you don't go to therapy because you're broken. You go to therapy because this is my situation and these are the skills I have to manage it. And there's this gap. Okay. So I have been in and out of therapy 3 different times. My first therapist, not a good fit. I didn't like her. She consistently ran 20 minutes late, and my time is my time. And so, like, she didn't apologize. She wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry. I ran. Like, she just consistently ran late. Now, I still got my hour, but my 3 appointment has pushed me back to 3:20. Now I'm leaving here at like, you messed up my day. There were other reasons why she wasn't a good fit, but the time thing, I couldn't get over it. I couldn't get it. Clients can be late to my session. So I give clients a 20-minute grace period. But like, so I'll wait for you. But if I'm the client, I want like 5 minutes, 10 within I'm sorry. My second therapist was phenomenal. I was able to work through some phenomenal things. And then my third therapist, it was right after COVID. I thought it was okay, and whoo, a bunch of emotions hit, and there was a lot going on in our family, and so going back to therapy was so helpful. I have community because therapy isn't the only way people heal. You also heal through movement. You also heal through being together. You also heal through music, through art. Like there are lots of different ways. Being outside. I went to the gym today, which I haven't been to our. We have a free gym. I haven't been to our gym in a while, and this week is a light caseload week for me, and so I have a few other days where I'm gonna make it to the gym. Oh. Yes, and so and you can go to therapy because you feel broken, because you need somebody to help you put the pieces back together. I'm just saying that's not, you don't have to wait until you're broken. So you can go when you're cracking. So I like to get people earlier in, so I, if we're in cracks and pieces, I am here, but also I don't want people to wait until they're like they have no more rope, and then they're finally in my office. Like as you're starting to run out of rope, start looking for somebody, because it can be really hard to find a therapist. I made it through COVID okay, but post, like as we had to start being normal again, like and like so the sight of people's the sight of people with a mask like this, so because it was still COVID, like it was still COVID time, but like the sight of noses, because it was like, because people would wear masks but they wouldn't cover their nose, that would just, I would it would bother me so much. And I, in my head, I would say over the nose, the MF mask goes over the nose. Like I would just sing that song in my head every single time I saw a nose. And so I needed some therapy. I love traffic. Traffic was glorious. My kids stayed in daycare, so our daycare remained open. I was an essential worker. All of my sessions were virtual, but I still went to the office because our daycare was where was where I worked. And so it was absolutely glorious. And so I so appreciate you all. Be kind. Do not do crimes. And I will see you all next time. I hope you all have a good one. Bye.